Don't worry.
Oh, okay.
He says it's running. It's probably running.
Catherine, if
Yes.
you said don't worry, I'm not going to worry. You know, you have my
He's,
mother's
look,
name.
he's got a smile on it. I mean, he looks pretty. I can't. Of course, maybe he's just giving us a hard time. Maybe this is just a big joke.
Let me see. Is it really working?
Yeah.
Oh, he's right.
I told
He's
you.
right. This is real, folks. Right here, right now, on another episode of Angels Talk. Catherine Lee is with me here today. And where are we, Catherine?
We are in Fort Wayne, Indiana, in a very new building that's part of our community. It's called Andorfer Commons. It's part of the Indiana Institute of Technology campus. It's their student center, library, workout room. Oh, it's got bowling alleys in the basement, and it also has a movie theater. And it's the second location for Fort Wayne Cinema Center. We're a not-for-profit film society, and we're having a good time.
What the bleep just happened here today, Catherine?
Oh, we've been using that a lot. Well, we showed What the Bleep Do We Know, a very interesting film made by some people who live in Oregon and had a vision of how they wanted to bring discussions about a lot of serious and different kinds of topics together. And they made this wonderful movie called What the Bleep Do We Know, and it's been playing for several weeks now at Cinema Center, very successfully. And so we finally had a discussion because everyone's saying, what the bleep did I just see?
So we're going to take it from here and go over there into the discussion.
Excellent,
We'll
wonderful.
share some of the thoughts, the words, the actions of people's reactions.
Of friends of this movie.
Yeah, and then we'll end the show. What do you
Sounds
think
good.
about that?
That sounds great. Let's go.
Let's go.
Check the phone. Is that righty or lefty?
And of course, everyone knows Catherine Lee, the most important person at Cinema Center. So, Jane, I know that you were the one who was the most excited about this film. Do you want to just say a couple of thoughts that maybe people can bounce off on, or?
I have to admit, one of the reasons why I thought it would be good to have discussion is one of my colleagues really wanted to have a discussion, who's the chair of the philosophy and theology department, and he was unable to be here tonight. So I was really disappointed in that. But when this film first came out, he was very interested in talking about it and getting people involved in seeing it and discussing it, because there were so many ideas that it addressed. So I was kind of assisting in that, and so I spoke with Steve, and Steve was interested in coming, and I was appreciative for that. So I thought it was worth discussing. It's interesting. It's an interesting style of filmmaking. It's a very different style of filmmaking. I had some students come see it, and some were very, as one said, I just wish that she would go away so I could hear the really smart people talk. You know, they were really troubled by the narrative because they just wanted to hear those really smart people talking. So, I mean, there's the structure of the movie is really kind of interesting.
And so what did the students eventually make out of her?
The character?
Yes.
The character in the narrative?
Amanda.
They were just kind of dismissive of it. They just really wanted to see
So they never decided that she had anything to contribute?
Well, they understood the connection. They usually don't see this in movies. They were very interested in it. So it was kind of a different style for them.
I know you just saw this for the first time tonight. Any top-of-the-head reactions or something you'd like to ask the participants to think about or answer, a question you have for them?
Well, I'm very interested in films like this because my academic focus is science and religion. My bachelor's degree is in physics, and I have a doctorate in theology. And I'm deeply interested in quantum mechanics, the philosophy of quantum physics. And so to see this in the popular media, is really
Very
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah, it's putting it out there for all of us to talk about. So that said, I'm excited to hear what people make of it and what questions you might have. Then I have some opinions forming, but I'm not at all interested in sharing those right now. I don't.
This is a tough
Well,
This is a tough panel.
well, I'd rather hear stuff from
Oh,
people
right.
first.
You two?
Of course, Jeanette, you know me well enough to know that I will always talk about anything, but I think one of the remarkable things that I look at, both in terms of what quantum mechanics has to teach us, as well as what cosmology is teaching us as we learn about things on the greater scale in the universe, is we have this incredible feeling when we talk about cosmology of insignificance. The universe is phenomenally large, beyond our ability to comprehend, and even as we speak, is getting larger. And we can't ever possibly keep up. And the numbers that are out there are so frighteningly large that it renders us completely insignificant in this cosmic view of things. While at the same time, at the quantum mechanical level, none of it exists without the observer. We are of primary significance. There can be no universe. There can be no cosmology without us. So you have this incredible tension between both significance and insignificance at the same time, which is both amazing and frightening all at once, I think.
Thanks. Catherine, do you have just one comment? And then we'll open
I'll
it
say a
up.
couple of things. First of all, the first time I saw this movie, one of the things that really fascinated me about it was that I came to it I came to it researching it for Cinema Center. Would this be a good movie for Cinema Center? And I sort of already knew the answer, because even if I didn't like it, I knew we'd have a very big audience for it. And despite the number here this evening, this film has been incredibly well received and has been seen by over 1,000 people in the community in the last several weeks. And right, and when but I come to it watching a lot of films, and one of the most amazing things about this film for me is that for the first 20 minutes, I really disliked it. Because the production values are not good in this movie. I mean, you come to it with the filmmaker's eye, and the lighting isn't very good, some of the acting isn't very good, it's just not, it's not a big Hollywood movie. It doesn't look pretty. And so I was just really, but then as the ideas start to sort of take hold, and as the different strands of the story start to weave together, I mean, by the end of the movie, I just loved it, because it had touched on all these subjects that I didn't really think that a typical film could weave together so convincingly. Not that it ties things up neatly, but there are a lot of subjects discussed in this film, and you are very open-minded to them by the end of the movie. And I think that's an astounding accomplishment for a film, that has a lot of odd elements going on in it, that has some sort of strange things that you wouldn't think normally mix in a movie. So I really appreciated it from that standpoint.
And maybe it couldn't tell you those things if it used conventional or good, as you say, production values.
Well, and a lot of people have had the reaction that James students have had. I mean, people have been stopping me and talking to me about it and saying, well, I just found some of it really annoying. Just like I was just, why can't we go back to this, or why can't we go in this direction? But I really think, too, that if the film had been a straight documentary, that it wouldn't have been nearly as compelling, because it would not have related to how someone might live their life, or how any of these things might relate to, getting up and going to work in the morning. And so, I think it really does work in the end, bringing a lot of really unconventional ideas and presentation of ideas together.
I think the mere fact that it put together the chemistry of lust and particle physics in the same movie, including animation, is pretty remarkable.
Thank you for that.
And Robert
Jane, you wanted to say something else?
Well, I think it is that illustration of those emotions, along with their commentary, that really does make it powerful and makes it something that you can think about. I mean, I know people, I can't imagine, but have that moment when you stand in front of the mirror and don't see what's really there. And And I think those moments are really well illustrated and really well discussed at the same time. And I think that's what makes it real. You can identify with her at times. You felt like that. So that adds to what they're talking about and helps to illustrate all that. And that's the conversation I had with a couple of them after they came back. And I really like the guys, and I want to hear them talk some more. But how does it become meaningful to your own life? And I think that's what they are able to approach in a nice way.
Well, and one more quick thing about the filmmaking, because I'd much rather talk about the ideas, but filmmaking, started 100 years ago as something with just enormous creative potential. I mean, when the first film was shown, it was a train coming into a station, and the audience so didn't know what was happening that they jumped out of the way because they thought it was going to run them over. And then you think about what filmmaking has become, and it's become, as a lot of the ideas described in the film, narrower and narrower and narrow, and it doesn't open up. It hasn't fulfilled its potential in a lot of ways, and this movie does sort of, break down some stuff so that, wow, I mean, even trying to connect these things, it's pretty, not a lot of filmmakers out there doing it. You can see why this didn't get funding from a studio.
And it also talks about how that our general mainstream media does not inspire. And that's one of the nice things. I mean, it should inspire. It should tell you a human story. It should be something that moves you to think or to action or to explore. And I think that's one of the things they captured really nicely.
Now, there's a danger of taking a movie like this, and that is that it doesn't capture the intellectual debate in, for example, the community of physicists and philosophers of physics. I mean, it presents fairly straightforwardly one interpretation of quantum mechanics, and it presents that uncritically. The idea that human consciousness collapses a wave of possibility into reality is one among many interpretations of quantum physics, and it's fraught with difficulty, as all of them are. And so you could come away from this film with the idea, well, quantum physicists are pretty well satisfied that there's something called an observer, which collapses a wave function. But that's not the case. And in fact, I find a kind of disconnect running across the film from the part that discusses quantum physics to the part that's discussing neurobiology. I mean, in the quantum physics, you're talking about a reality that is not truly actualized until it's observed. Well, who's the observer of the neurochemistry going on inside of the brain, right? I mean, the second half of the film, the human being is beginning to turn into a neurobiological machine, which is in deep tension with the presentation of reality in the quantum mechanical part of the film.
And also with the spiritual dimensions of the whole thing.
Well, it seems that what the filmmaker was trying to string those pieces together with was the notion of the individual being the creator of the universe in the case of quantum mechanics, the creator of their own universe, personal universe, in their neurobiological sense. So that seemed to be the link, but you're quite right. There is a disconnect there, and I'm currently listening, I'm addicted to books on tape, to Brian Greene's Fabric of the Cosmos, which just has hour after hour. It's on 19 CDs, So, you've got to drive great distances to learn anything. But hour after hour of the debate within quantum physics. And there are core things everyone agrees, but how that happens, what it means, is the subject of continuing ongoing debate. We don't know.
You've been very patient in listening to us talk and waiting for your turn. Yeah.
Don't you think the underpinnings of what's behind all of this, and behind the spirituality and the quantum physics, and is the question that the filmmaker's trying to elucidate is, do we create our own reality or don't we? And I think, however well he did or however he failed, I think that's what he was trying to get at. Do we create our own reality? And if so, how does that work? And I don't know, do you agree with that, or?
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what trying to connect these disparate threads within the film is that notion of we control it. We have control of our reality, one way, shape, or form.
How does that jive with spirituality then, with our concepts, I guess, God and whatnot? That wrangles some people, I think.
Well,
I can imagine some people would be offended that are, you know, devout Christians or whatever, they would have taken offense to it.
there's a mystery there. I mean, if you say we create our own reality, the basis for that claim is a reality studied in a laboratory, right? And in laboratories like CERN, right? Where events are taking place independently of people's wills, right? It's not as if a group of scientists got together and said, let's will into reality the Schrödinger wave equation, and that it will govern the evolution of possibilities, right? I mean, there is an extramental reality out there that's described by that equation. And that's an intersubjective reality, meaning that it's a reality that we all agree about, that is the community of quantum physicists, right? So there's this juxtaposition of the interpretation of the theory, which suggests we create our own reality, except of course the theory is based upon a reality that we all intersubjectively agree is there.
But the way I understand it is, the way they explained it was just like the first little tidbit. I mean, for most of us, this is very complex, and we still don't understand it. But this is only, I think this was presented as only the most minute tip of the iceberg example of how it might possibly be that we might possibly create. I think also that, and I don't think that they brought into the laws of resonance, where realities are created through agreement and resonance. Certain thoughts, like if you and I, if I had the belief that I could do something and you had the belief that I couldn't do it, then who wins? You know, how do we create this reality? And that's a very complex explanation or a proof, but I have read the proofs. I can't explain them. I really can't. But I know that they're out there, and I know that they've examined this issue.
Something that it made me think of when I was watching the film, and I know very little about physics and probably less about religion, but I know a lot about linguistics. And when they were talking about the fact that we believe we cannot influence the future very much by thinking, or we can influence the future, rather, but we can't influence the past. I remembered learning in my linguistics classes that there are languages that only have two tenses, verb tenses, past and not past. And I love that idea that that in some way then the past and the future must be alike. And of course, when you think about it, they are, because they're both not now. But I don't know where I'm going with that. I thought I did, but I just ran out of steam. But
Inhale.
Complexity of
yes,
Gentleman in the back here wanted to say something.
yes.
Yeah, back to, I guess, his original comments, I just look at it, I guess, rather simplistically in the fact that it's, you know, conception, our belief and conception, you know, belief in the conception and the manifestation, which is creation, which is God, which we are a part of God. As they say, an infinite possibility, just one of the possibilities, kind of like a mathematical thing, equation really, in the whole sense, just one of the possibilities of God, that we are one and the same.
I think what always has fascinated me in this whole process is this, as the little boy on the basketball court asks, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? You know, there was a time less than a century ago when all of the leading physicists were saying, don't go into physics. It's almost done. You know, I mean, there's just one or two more things to find out, and that's the end. And it turned out that those one or two more things
It's just the beginning.
were just the beginning. I mean, those what we perceive to be little gaps in our knowledge, that if only we'd know this one more thing, we'd be fine. It turned out opened up, I mean, the rabbit hole opened up and down we went. And although we know phenomenally more than we knew then, we realize we know phenomenally less than there is to know yet. So,
Ruth?
Well, as early as the Greeks, there was a conviction that the mind and body connection was very important to health and well-being and so forth. So I understood that part of the film very well and thought that was well done. I thought the weakness was introducing religion, and it didn't seem well established in any way. I mean, they almost seemed uncomfortable using the word God, and there was a reference to Jesus walking. Was it Jesus walking on water? Some of that was so fast that I didn't get it all.
But another reference to Jesus was the mustard seed.
Yes.
That was well done, I thought.
But I wonder, I mean, I think of the marketing value of that film, and I think there is an intense interest in, the body-mind, as evidenced by the attendance at the Chopra
Yes.
lecture.
Mhm.
But why did they bring in religion? I mean, can't you talk about quantum physics without talking about religion, or do you have to talk about it too? And if you do, how do you talk about it?
Someone would like to respond to that.
My feeling is if you talk about, the physical self, and you have to talk about the physical universe, that you have to re-examine what is reality. And
When you examine reality, you have to think of a creator.
This gentleman had a comment too.
No, well, to me, the movie was kind of like the cinema version of Celestine Prophecy. I think it had absolutely very little to do with religion, but because there is an element of it, someone who would have religion as a major part of their life would have blown it totally way out of proportion. My pastor personally would have freaked out if he saw this flick. But I'm not going to name any names, there's no fairness to him. Any pastor, I think it would challenge those benevolent feelings that they've been trained with, that they've gone to school with, that they've been ordained with. How could it not? But I think that in some respects that the conversations are, and we like to pat ourselves on the back that we're so smart and intellectual, that we, in our pure dissection of this, that the movie loses its essence of a practical utility is how can all of our collective realities, which as I'm evolving, is nothing more than a constant negotiation process, that we all have some sort of homeostasis. I don't want to violate her reality. I don't want you to violate mine, or vice versa. And it's constantly ongoing. So no wonder we only use 10% of our head. God forbid if we start using 12, 13% of it, what could we possibly create from that?
I think it's appropriate to pick up on this question of why religion in the first place. I think it's appropriate that a film like this delve into religion because it is asking the question, what is ultimately real? And, a traditional response to that question is God. I mean, from Plato on, there's this tradition that what is most real is spiritual, and that which unifies truth, beauty, and goodness is ultimate reality, God. Yeah. Now, I don't think the movie treated religion in a very intelligent way. One of its major messages seemed to be that, look, can't we mature beyond the view of God as the arbiter of good and evil and the judge of human action? And can't we get beyond the idea correlated with that of heaven and hell? And that's like saying, okay, let's get beyond the 6-year-old conception of religion. Great. Most theologians have done that. I mean, most theologians worth their salts. So, in the end, for example, I hear someone saying, there's no good, there's no evil, there's just evolving. Some words to that effect. Well, today, aren't we celebrating the 60th anniversary of Auschwitz? Right?
Liberation today.
The liberation of Auschwitz, right? Okay. I mean, tell anyone who was there that there's no good, there's no evil, there's only evolving. You know, I mean, so somehow the film failed to grapple with some of the most fundamental realities that the great religious thinkers of history have grappled with. So now, I'm being too critical.
Well, just about
That's fine.
It's time to go already, Catherine.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, but we did have a good time.
We did, and I am so amazed by everyone's responses.
I'm very pleased that everyone who seemed to have a lot of different ideas about the movie could still come together and speak so interestingly about them.
I say fluently through the vision of their lips.
There you go.
Because we're all together in this manifestation of what's happening. What the bleep is happening.
What the bleep?
Yeah. Catherine, you are an angel.
Oh, aren't you sweet?
You are.
Happy to be part of the network.
And I am so honored to be in your presence because you do have my mother's name.
And I hope I wear it well.
You do wear it well, and you made me feel so welcome here.
I'm glad. I'm glad you are welcome here.
Yes, and I would love to come back and
Good.
and
Let's do
assist
another
you.
one. We'll find another movie that really deserves this kind of conversation, and we'll do it all again.
Very soon. So will you help me end the show now?
Yes.
Everyone loves it. It goes
Okay.
like this. We
Okay.
have to thank them. Thank you for taking the time to stop, look, and listen in our divine appointment here today on another episode of Angels Talk. I'm Sandra, and with Catherine Lee
Catherine Lee.
from
Fort Wayne Cinema Center.
Fort Wayne Cinema Center, and we're from the #1 access station. Have to plug the station.
Woohoo!
Yes, in the nation, and the only access station in the world. And we're here to say divine love and holy kisses. I usually do this stuff, you know. Get all the gestures, you know. We're not acting today. We're real.
We're real.
We're real. came from overseas, can't get it in the United States.
But my question, I guess, would be if that is, if there is any truth to that, wouldn't that be a major breakthrough in